Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning. Is Jay on here yet? So who was on the auto seminar last night or yesterday? Anybody on the Jeff Otto?
Hey, Rob, I was.
So what did you think of the content there?
I thought it was fantastic. A lot of stuff that we kind of needed to hear, but in a different perspective and a different take. A lot of the back to basic stuff and the role playing that he does. He was pretty good. He was really, really interesting. I just love the way his twist on the business.
And what's the outcome or what's the projection? What's your take on the projection for the next few months and then maybe next year, if you could share? I saw part of it, so I don't want to misquote.
I think something he said that I strongly believe when there's a challenging market, it really is kind of the stars shine, right? It's like it's almost like a cleansing of the business, and it's the fittest survive. So if you're able to make it in this kind of a business, then it's only going to be better for you when the market shifts. Um, so yeah.
And he said, I guess the interest rate hikes were starting to slow down the economy here in Jersey, right? And I guess that would be across the country. And I think he's also predicting a little bit higher interest rates for a little bit longer. Yeah, and I don't know if Jay is on here with us yet. I wanted to chat with him. Jay, you on yet?
I am.
All right.
Sam, I am. Green eggs and ham.
Why don't you share with us your content from this morning about what your take is there?
It is what it is. The Fed is doing what the Fed is trying to do. And that's to slow the economy down. I wonder if I can email you some of these slides. I took screenshots of some of the slides, which assist, right? So inflation and interest rates are linked. So inflation spiked up a little bit more towards the end of the last couple of months. So the Fed has paused interest rate increases for the time being, just to see how things are going to settle out here in New Jersey. We're a little bit ahead of the curve in terms of pushing us into recession sooner. So inflation is coming down, but it did spike up a little bit. So that was part of the reason the Fed just said, okay, we're going to pause for now. But he did point out that, they don't see interest rates waning until probably the end of next year or possibly after the election. Let's see. Right. So economy continues to resist recession. So the economy is still really strong, which I guess is a good thing for everybody, right? Which was a surprise to me. They're trying to bring it down the growth down to under 2%. Right now it's about 4.9, which is probably going to result in some more interest rate increases by the end of the year. New Jersey, in regards to New Jersey, we're already starting to cool down. Job creation was down the last 2 months. So again, we're kind of ahead of the curve when it comes to that. Home buying power, obviously interest rates have had a large effect. So a first-time home buyer, under like 400,000, a house they could afford at 2.7%. Last year, they could buy a $383,000 house, and this year they can only buy a $284,000 house. The trade-up buyers.
Jay, can you repeat that number? The difference, you said 380 down to 290. What was the difference?
284. It's $100,000.
I don't know. Those of you who remember, a year and a half ago, we were talking about how much extra buying power they were getting because money was virtually free. Right. Hey, they could pay 50,000 more because the rate's lower. Now it's kind of come back full circle.
And then for the trade up buyers with 200,000 down, 25% down payment, with 2.77 interest rates, they could buy $1,085,000 house. Now they can only buy an $814,000 house, which is what, $250,000 lower. So that's why the move up buyers aren't going to go. Housing demand and contracts are down 20% in 2022. This is in New Jersey specifically. Year to date this year, it's another 20% from, say, a baseline of 2019 in terms of the number of contracts we have available. Home supply dynamics. So here in New Jersey, home purchase contracts have been declining for the past, I don't know, 16 months in terms of the quantity, but that's because the move-up buyers refuse to move on and move to a new house. Unsold inventory is down 32% year over year, which is just, we only have 12,000 houses available in the state of New Jersey for sale right now in the entire state. You know, a normal market, say May of 2019, there were 45,000. So you're down to virtually nothing, which again is what the Fed is trying to do. Obviously, there's different effects depending on price point. Each area is regional, so it depends on what region you're looking at. Lowest supply, highest supply. On general valuation, you know, so the good news is, hey, from 20 in here in New Jersey, 2019 was a 5% increase in appreciation. 2020 it went up 12%. 2021 it went up 16%. 2022 it went up 9%. 2023 went up another 5%. That's this year. So over the course of the past 4 years, people have picked up 42% on the value of their homes. So any of your old clients should hear from you with that great news, right? That their house is worth almost 42% higher than it was when they bought it, if they bought 5 years back. Okay. Risk of recession is rising. Fall housing forecast. Inflation close to seeing the fever break, approaching 2% threshold. So they're trying to get the economy down to a growth rate of 2%. Recession should be short and shallow. Housing to outperform all real estate sectors, which is when he brought up the fact that, hey, listen, if you're buying a $500,000 home, right, and you're putting $100,000 down and it appreciates at 5%, next year it'll be worth $525,000, which means you're making $25,000 on a $100,000 investment, which is a pretty good cap rate, outperforms anything else. So it still is the best investment you're ever going to make. Rebound effect on the backside, interest rates fall and tight inventory loosens, pin up millennials and trade up surge. This is, of course, through next year. Baby boomer downsizing. Okay, obviously they've been holding off. At some point, they're going to finally make the jump. And you know, people are reactionary. So as soon as prices start to ease a little bit here, they're all going to jump into the market because they waited, right? Home price futures, slight haircut in 2024. So he was projecting a 5% decrease here in New Jersey. Return to long-term trend in 2025. The Gateway Tunnel project boosts transit towns. So that's good for all those people. So the forecast 2023, appreciation is about 5% at a 5% mark. 2024, it'll be down 4%. And then 2025, you're saying it should, you know, and obviously these numbers don't usually hit the mark, but it's okay. At least gives us a benchmark. So the forecasts are always good. And of course, he always pointed out that here in New Jersey, the average rate of return or appreciation on over a 50-year period here in New Jersey is 4.8%. Okay, and over a 22-year average through the Great Recession, through the pandemic, it's been at 5%. So in terms of valuation and in terms of investing, real estate is still the cat's meow when it comes to, you know, making money on your money, which is what the point of money is to make more money. At least that's what the Latanzios have learned over the years. So, and that was pretty much it. So, yeah, we're going to have a little tighter time here for ourselves because contracts are down, you know, and sales are down 40%. But again, like the last lady was just pointing out, you know, that's when we become better. And we attend these masterminds, and that's what differentiates us from everybody else in the marketplace is knowing our stuff and serving our clients and making sure we stay front and center with the people out there. So it's a good time to regroup and set up your systems and invest in your future, at least in my opinion, because now's the time to make those changes and move on to being a better agent than you are today. So
Jay, first of all, thank you for sharing. And I want to ask you a second question, which is, do you think that you learn more in your career when times are easy or when times are challenging?
No, absolutely. When times are challenging, you know what I mean? Like most human beings, I tend to be lazy and my brain doesn't want to work. And now I'm going to have to work a little bit, right? Whereas the past couple of years, it's been pretty easy to hit marks and set goals and achieve those goals. It's going to be more of a struggle now. And okay, time to suit up and show up and make it happen anyway.
So
There's plenty of opportunity out there. You know what I mean? It's a matter of whether we want to work for it or not, right? So that's all.
So the challenges and the failures that we encounter, that we get through, are how we really learn in life, not just in business. But you don't learn from constant success. You have to have challenges to be part of the mix. And those who embrace those challenges, are going to get there a lot quicker, and they're going to enjoy the ride a lot more. And today's session is called Insulate Your Business from the economic climate, from activities that we have no control over. Now, Jay, do you wish interest rates were lower?
I can wish all I want.
No, but would you prefer rates to be lower? That's just simple question. Probably yes, right?
Yeah, but relative to crashing the economy, no, it's okay.
but your wishing has no influence on whatever happens, and even the Federal Reserve's moves are, they're targeted, but they don't always work. So what I want to stress to everybody is there are these casual participants in the industry who come and go, right? Most of them have already not renewed their license, and there are the career people. And the best career people I have seen are always growing their business in an up or a down market. The best career people are always growing their business because you're a year smarter than you were a year ago, right? And the market rewards those who invest in themselves and try to get ahead of the curve. The Wayne Gretzky, play where the market's going concept is so true. We're going to be doing business planning. Okay. A lot of people, have this, survival goal in the real estate business. I need to do this. Then there's kind of like, hey, it would be really cool if I did this plus a little bit. And then I want everybody to have their moonshot goal is to, what would really change your life? Okay. And I want you to think outside the box. Maybe you want to, I don't know, anybody in Kitten Falls yesterday or went to the investor classes I did in Florida on the call? I guess everybody's shy, but I talked about, now might even be a good time to, grow your business, put some money aside, buy an investment property, and enjoy that process while that's going to be growing, regardless of where the market is. A couple other things I wanted to talk about is, who thinks you would do more for somebody else than you would do for yourself in terms of, helping them find a house, or, you can do this for yourself to make a couple extra bucks, but if somebody needs a house, you'll kind of, go above and beyond. And I think a lot of us are like that. And I think that's something that we need to tie that into the way that we think. And maybe, if you're feeling a little bit lazy today, or you're feeling a little bit, off, if you think about the people that you could help, that thought creates motion, creates emotion, creates results. And for some of us, it might even be just to get back into a routine. Who checks the inventory in your market every day, even if you don't have a client? Just out of curiosity, like, hey, I want to see what's going on so I'm just trying to see who, is there any of us that, only kind of do it when we have a need? Like, we have somebody looking in this area, then we only do it, or are most of us programmed to just be curious and always looking? I mean, I think when you do that, when you look at properties, what happens is, I think you see a property and you think of somebody, and that creates activity, that creates business, right? Whereas, maybe if it just came to you, you might not even look at it and make that connection because you're not in that mindset. And Angie, thank you for sharing that you kind of primarily look for the client. But maybe one of the things you might want to do is look where you want to focus your business and just look at what's going on in the inventory. Even go to a couple open houses or broker opens just to kind of get top of mind. Sometimes that might spike the memory of somebody a year and a half ago that left the business because they couldn't find something.
Rob, the other thing to consider in that regard is that you can be walking down the street and somebody stops you because they know you're a realtor and they start asking you questions about what's going on in our local market. So you want to be prepared for that because you never know when you're going to get that opportunity again.
Exactly. And I've learned never to go to the self-checkout because the self-checkout never buys, but the cashier might.
Here's a little tip.
Yeah. And Tony can tell us a story about that. But and this is not conjecture, but I really believe that, whether the market goes up or down isn't going to affect my income as an agent and, as a business owner, because the only thing that impacts how we do is what's between our ears and then the activities that our brain tells us to do and the way that we process information. Because we all know in the down market, there will always be people that are having their best year, right? And why shouldn't that be us? And if you're not somebody that's motivated purely by money, okay, maybe this will get a little bit of an emotional connection with you. But the people who you consider to be your sphere, your clients, maybe even people you haven't met, okay, you can change their lives by giving them the courage to make the right decisions. And the right decision is not the right decision for you. The right decision is the right decision for them. Okay. And if I would say I would say more people now than a year and a half ago, maybe buying is not the right decision. So if you want to grow your business, what do we think we need to do? Do you think it might be a good idea to have more conversations with people? Because then you'll find who it's right for them, right?
There you go.
So, if a year and a half ago the fish were jumping in the boat, right? Now we need to have conversations to identify the people that we can help. I mean, I know around me there's a lot of new babies. Okay, I know 4 of our agents are first-time parents that I know of. Congratulations to all of you. A lot of newborns are out there, I see, from family and friends. So people are going to have different housing needs, right? Does somebody say, I'm going to stay in my 1-bedroom apartment forever when I have 2 kids? I don't think so. They have a need, and we have an obligation to communicate with them and help them solve that need. Okay. I don't think that, we're going to ever talk about on this mastermind how to create a strategy to trick somebody to buy a house that they don't want to buy, because I don't think that would work. I don't think that fulfills us as a industry. And it's just probably generally just bad business because most of those deals are going to cancel, right?
Right.
But if we're not having the conversations, we're not serving the people that we claim to be our sphere of influence, our pure gold, our clients. And how sad is that we're not taking care of our clients? I just took a couple of notes because I always try to do a little bit of research just to keep my mind fresh in terms of maybe what I know, but it's not top of mind. It's in my subconscious, but it hasn't risen to my conscious mind. So a lot of people, and I don't know if any of you, when you get up, if you either watch a 2-minute short from somebody, or you listen to a podcast, or you watch a YouTube video to stay relevant and fresh while you're maybe getting ready or doing some things. Anybody else do that on a fairly regular basis to keep your mind fresh and positive? No? Well,
every day.
Who was that?
Glenn.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, and Glenn, doesn't that help you stay relevant and fresh? Right? Because you're.
It also gives perspective, right?
Yep. And it gives you new ideas because there's so many ideas out there. I think every single person on this Zoom meeting here could increase their business by 50%, if they wanted to. I mean, you can say you want to, okay, but if you're committed, or even better than committed, if you're obsessed to doing that, and you have an anchor to get you to do it, everybody can do it. Even if the market drops by 20% like it did. I don't think that's relevant to how you perform and how you insulate your business so that you can pay your bills. Because I don't know about most of us on the meeting here, but our expenses are not going down, even though real estate sales are going down, are they? I think expenses are going up. I go to the gas station, prices are up, food prices are up. Okay. A lot of things are increasing, and the real estate market is contracting a little bit. Okay. So I think when the market gets to be more challenging, the more invested, committed people are going to grow and own more of that market share. Okay. Last week we talked a little bit about certainty, the confidence. But I never, if the market dropped to 2 million sales, I wouldn't think about finding a new career. Would you? I just figure out how I can, help and serve people to be the person that's growing my business in a reducing market.
Well, again, that goes to the abundance mentality, right?
Yep.
It's like John said, you got to work harder now. You can't give up. The agents who give up are only going to give us more business. So if they want to drop out, let them drop out. But you got to pick up the phones. The phone's not going to dial itself. You got to knock on doors.
Right.
Go back to the basic stuff.
You know what I told Morgan recently, Rob? I'm going to
What's
become the best door knocker in the company. That's the challenge. How do I become the best door knocker in the company for the next year and a half or two? That's the challenge, right? My mindset.
Yep.
Because there's no reason I can't, is there?
Got to do it.
So Jay, I'm glad you brought that up, because next Monday we're coming back to the peer-to-peer with the Labor Day and the Jewish holiday. September just never really got off the ground. So I'm going to invite those who were on my last 3 or 4 door knocking escapades and sessions to come join and talk about the experience to the group if you're interested. And that's one segment that we can use to grow our business. Many of you are doing it a lot more consistently than ever before. And, I want to see what the results are. I want to see how I could help. I want to, inspire people who want to do that, but that's only one segment of the business. But next Monday, 9:30, you're going to get a message from me if you were on my last door knocking sessions, inviting you to join. And I hope you can join and make a contribution and get more than you contribute back, for sure. Okay. Tony Robbins, when I went to Business Mastery, I was looking at my old notes. He said success is 80% psychology, 20% tactics. Success is 80% psychology, 20% tactics. And, I think, a lot of times we think, hey, I haven't sold here, maybe my skills aren't up to, my top competitor. But if you have the right psychology, you're going to be poised for success, and the right mindset, right? You fuel yourself with, new ideas every day. Like one of the sessions I watched this morning said this individual had success sending a email and or text messages to his existing database, and he just said, hey, if your house he said, if you could sell your house for 8 to 10% higher than this estimate, would you be interested? Or 8 to 10% above Zillow's estimate, would you consider selling? Now, if you have 600 people in your database, like the average person does, if you sent out 100 of those a day for 6 days, who thinks that you might have somebody that's interested, right? And that's not a high percentage. I don't think anybody would expect a high, percentage result, but I mean, I got to believe you get 1% of people that say, if I can get 10% more, of course, right? So there's an idea. Okay. So search for those ideas, embrace the market pivot. Okay. Because we never grow from success. We grow from our failures and our challenges and markets that are changing. That's how we really grow. Because when things are easy, we get to be a little bit complacent. Okay. And then we just assume it's going to stay like this and we can just, keep doing what we're doing and hope the environment doesn't change to throw us off. To me, that's not a very good strategy at all. I would challenge everybody to study the market a little bit more. There's a lot of great ideas that when I talk to people in business planning, talk to your peers, that we kind of forgot. And most of the things that we talk about, they knew. Is there anybody that has 3 buyers that you're having a hard time finding a property for? And you want to volunteer for just a moment? Nobody?
Rob, I can tell you my situation since I took a listing in my community. I have a ton of buyers that came through the open house, and a lot of them want to stay in the community. So that's what I'm dealing with now. So I know they all want water and they all want a pool. So I'm going to start knocking on the doors of the people that back up to water, and either they have space for a pool or they have a pool.
Right. And was that Carmen? Who was that talking? Carmen?
It's Carmen, yeah.
Fantastic. So and somehow I'm getting an echo. I'm going to mute everybody for a second. So is there anybody that has had success recently looking in the market and calling the dominant listing agents in the market where your clients want to be and ask, hey, do you have anything coming up? And I know we talked about this, I think last time or the time before, and we talked about it 6 months ago. Has anybody done that and had success? The next question is, has anybody done that and had failure and at least tried it?
I've tried it, Rob, a few times actually. Just to date, have not had any success.
And how was that's Mickey, right?
Yes.
Mickey, how did that conversation go when you called the your competitor listing agent?
Oh, they were very open. Unfortunately, each time I had a very specific requirement, which is why I was door knocking, looking for once in Leonia, another time in Closter, looking for specific clients. So they just didn't have anything that met my criteria, but they did share with me new opportunities that they were going to have.
So they shared stuff that's coming up, right?
Correct.
So over time, Mickey, that might then remind you of somebody who needs that wasn't the person you were looking for, correct?
Yeah.
And if you have better relationships with the top 8 listing agents in your market, is that going to help you when you ultimately make an offer on their property?
No, I'm just kidding. Of course, yes.
So even though your very specific need wasn't met, at least you've got to be a little friendlier, because when they have a property that's hot and they're getting multiple offers, they're probably not even picking up the phone to talk to you, right?
Probably. But, the other thing also that I found helpful too is calling agents I've done business with in the past and asking them if they had anything, because you already kind of have a rapport, they know. So that also helps, and just knowing what's coming up.
Yep. So we have 64 people. I'm guessing that less than 6 of us have actually done that. And I'm not being critical, but I'm just trying to say we're not helpless, that we have options that we can do to create activity. Okay.
Hey, Rob, can I share my story?
Sure.
So Lisa Grande, I got an accepted offer because the agent knew me. So it is absolutely worth, having a rapport with an agent. It helped that I worked with him, and he was with us, previously. But he did say that a couple offers came in, but I was the only one he really knew and was comfortable with, other than, our offer being strong. So
Right.
it was a good thing.
So there's a lot of elements that helped you become successful, a lot of things that you put into the mix to get you over the curve, but over the edge. But I think, psychology is really, really important. And, I think, for Mickey's standpoint, even though it didn't result in a transaction, I think maybe somewhere down the road, one of those properties that they did mention that's coming on might fit one of her clients. It might make that an easier transition to get that transaction. And if we keep thinking outside the box, we're going to insulate our business from the market change. Okay, we can continue to grow even in a shrinking market. Absolutely 100%, no doubt. Okay. I'm trying to see, is anybody, I saw Danielle. Danielle, are you still on? And able to talk?
Yeah, I'm on.
Calling
Sorry
you.
about that. Go ahead.
I mean, Jay had mentioned, just coincidentally, that in 15 years, it was 4.8% appreciation. In 22 years, it was 5% average appreciation for property, right?
Right.
When we were doing those worksheets, we just plugged in a number of 5%. I feel even more comfortable with the auto validation of that historical performance. And I really think everybody who wants to consider themselves to be, the full real estate agent for their friends, family, clients, sphere of influence, and maybe even people you haven't met yet, you have an obligation to let people know what's available to them, right? And how long did it take to analyze a property?
It was actually under 2 minutes.
So we analyze properties in under 2 minutes per property. One of your team members brought us 5 properties they just picked out of the MLS. Were you surprised that that they were a little bit better investments than we might have initially thought?
Yes, I was actually really surprised because I was like, oh, that's a pretty high price for a multifamily in Asbury. And then I was like, whoa, it was over a 7% return or cap rate.
Yeah, we're finding mid-7s in cap rates, right? We found some properties that over 5 years would get you back between 40 and 60% of your down payment.
Yes, and I was surprised until I saw the numbers.
Right. So I think not only from a business perspective, Danielle, like, hey, it's good for you to sell more houses, but I think that we have an obligation to share that with, our clients. Because one of the things that is a problem for lenders in Tinton Falls is what, Danielle?
You mean a problem for the lenders? Appraisal, cash deals?
Cash deals, right? How many of your deals are cash, right?
A lot.
You have so many deals in Tinton Falls that are cash. In the entire, not just your team, but in the office, we probably have 40% or more that are straight out cash.
Correct.
So if your clients have a pile of cash, okay, and they're looking at where can I invest that cash, there's a bunch of them that would probably like to put it into real estate, because people always know that real estate, they're not making anymore, right? And real estate never goes down to zero like a stock could, right? A stock could go down to zero. A bond could go down to zero. You buy a bond of a company, big companies have failed, but real estate never goes down to zero. There's always some implicit value to the property. Even if the house burns down, Sandy comes and wipes it out, there's still value to that particular property. And I think even if it's not motivated by money, I think that all your clients and people who would say, you're my real estate professional, we have an obligation to let them know that this is available to them and let them consider it. we talked about an agent in the company who is now retired, but he bought 2 houses for his children, his 2 daughters, when they were under 5, and sold it when they started college. And he paid for their entire college. And then 3 years after, or 4 years after, he gave them the remainder of what he got from the sale of the house. And they both now own houses, and they put down $200,000 down. I'd consider that to be a good parent, right? And that was what was important to him. And he got in on the cheap because he bought real estate. And ironically, his wife was a Merrill Lynch stockbroker. Go figure. But even if you're not, even if making an extra 30,000 or 50,000 doesn't motivate you, thinking about your client coming to you and saying, "Hey, how come Rob in your office, let his client know about this and you never told me," right?
Right.
And they go to the Wall Town Festival, and people are saying that was so great. I can't believe, Amy did it. Amy showed me this, and your client, you haven't shared that with your clients, or vice versa. Okay, so it's not just strictly about money, but it does make sense, and it's also an excuse to have a conversation, right? Has anybody had those conversations with their clients from the several times that we've done that? I know there's somebody on this call that's been doing it. Anybody want to share? All right, I'll let them be silent, but I know that there's somebody who's been making a lot of sales by just introducing the concept to their clients, and if nothing else, it's a good reason to make the call, right? And they might even know somebody who's interested, even if they're not.
Hey, Rob.
Yep.
So I have clients that have kids that are like, I guess, early teens. And what I have done is when parents will know that their kids are going to Rutgers, they buy like 2 condos, like 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and then they encourage their kid to find roommates. So the parents buy cash sometimes, or they put the down payment, but the 4 years that they're at Rutgers, they're owning that condo. Then they sell it. So I think I might call some of my clients that have kids and just explain that strategy to them and see whether or not they're even interested. I mean, it just gives me a reason to call them, but I have done that type of sale successfully.
So
Kitty condo.
yeah, Kitty. So while we did this abbreviated version of this yesterday, Scott Jakubowski, our title rep in Tinton Falls, said that his son's going to Delaware University and he wants to do that concept. Now, unfortunately, we're not selling in Delaware, but think about, we had one non-real estate person there, and he was like, "I want to do that for my son. I didn't know I could do it."
Right. And the thing for me was I can plant that seed now, right? I'm not looking for like immediate return on investment, but I can also ask them, do you know anybody else that's looking to buy or sell? I'm looking to grow my business. And then I can start tapping into their personal network. Like, I just think that we need reasons to call people. Like you're saying, create reasons to, have conversations. Doesn't mean that that person is your client. They still have a network of people that they can connect you to.
Right. And I think, Angie, the thing that will keep you doing it is when you know that you're doing good, right?
Yeah.
You're not calling with commission breath. Because honestly, let's say as a parent, right, you didn't do that, right? Now your kid's going to college at Rutgers. They're their first year. They could buy a multifamily property. The child could find roommates, rent it out, right? That property is going to appreciate. Maybe they keep that as a rental property when the person graduates. Maybe when that person graduates, now they've built up a bunch of equity and they can buy their first house. I mean, it just changes lives in a good way. And it's not for everybody, but it's really a relatively inexpensive way to get into the game, I
Yep.
mean, so many, parents, will do a lot for their kids. And if you think you could give them a leg up and you can get them in the home ownership game for, even if the property was 700 grand and it's cost you 3.5% down plus some closing costs, maybe that's 5% down. It's $35,000. Not everybody has 35,000, But in most cases, if it's not a public university, you're probably paying more than that for them to go their first year to school, right? So maybe they could, take that money, buy a property, let the kid take a loan for their college, right? After they close, it doesn't even affect their ratios. And then when they graduate, they own a house and they owe 35,000 instead of not having a house and having no debt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Rob, NJ.com had an article that Princeton University is $83,000 a year. And that's not too far off from where like other universities are at. I mean, public schools like Rutgers might be a lot less, but that's the numbers that people are legitimately dealing with. So I'm like, wow, that's a lot. So
And
if I could, I'd be happy.
so if you borrowed 250,000 to go to school, what do you think your student loan payment would be?
Well, a lot.
800, 1,000 a month, right?
Yeah, it would be like a second mortgage or a mortgage.
So how about going social media team and say, look, you know what? There's some options for students that have student debt if they're going into school, or if you have young kids, here's two things that you could do. One, you could buy a property early on, or if they're in college, they could buy a property, a multifamily. When they get out of college, that property is probably going to have positive cash flow. Hopefully, it's enough money to pay their student loan. So they take the $1,000 they make on the property, they pay down their student loan, and they have an asset.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's not for everybody, but it's got to be for a lot of people, right? And, Danielle, you're probably of the opinion like I was when the market was going crazy, that these prices are so high, it can't possibly make sense to buy it as an investment, right? Because we saw those same houses selling for 250 6 years ago. Now they're at 599, right?
Right.
But it made sense. Not
It
all of
did.
them made sense, but it was very easy to figure out which ones made sense and which ones didn't. It wasn't like we spent, 6 hours or 4 hours. We spent, 2 minutes times five. It was maybe 5-10 minutes printing up the 5 houses that look like they might be interesting, and then 2 minutes per property to put it into the spreadsheet. And it looks like you did a lot of work. So I don't know. I just want everybody to know that you don't need to go through unnecessary hardship when the market changes and say the market's down 20%, my income's going to go down 20%, right? Most of the time, the kid do not want to own that house when in college. I think, Sandy, that's probably a limiting belief. And I don't mean to be negative on your negative comment, but I don't know. I think a lot of kids would want to own a house. What do you think? Angie, you think a lot of college students would say it would be cool to own a house while they're in college?
Yeah, when I first started thinking about a house, I was 21 years old. So like my parents sent me to college. I got out of college. I was looking at rentals. I was like, well, maybe I should buy something. I was 21 and I was like, maybe my parents could have planned that for me. But they didn't have the wherewithal. Like no one planted a seed early on and told them to like prepare and do that. So I ended up buying at 26, but I had the thought early on. So I think, I think these millennials and, the zennials, they're really advanced. I mean, they got the Z, they got their stuff together. I didn't, it was something that just wasn't a concept, but it can be a concept, especially if we're promoting it.
And Angie, were your parents homeowners most of your life, or
They bought their first house when I was 11.
Okay. Yeah, so they made that decision to buy, and I think that they might have influenced you differently if they were educated on what was possible, right? Because I think a lot of people think, hey, I just need to save up, work hard, save up. And by the time Angie was 11, they bought a house. Maybe providing the cost of paying dorm versus investing is a good way to make sense.
People who work with NARP, this is a good conversation for like, my parents were not English speakers, so they had limiting beliefs. Like they didn't think that they could buy beyond their primary residence. Versus now, I think NARP pushes that. They push for, more, not just home, ownership, but like investments.
Right. But, and Angie, if if it's right for somebody, not only do you get paid, but doesn't it feel good when you help somebody understand something. And, if you had clients that many of us have been in the business for a while, if you could help somebody's child get into the homeownership game while they're in college for a very low down payment, and then when they're out of college, they could sell that and buy a house. They could keep that as an investment property. And they're going to be raving fans because you educated them on what was possible.
Right.
Okay. Not only does that help you financially by making a few extra sales, but I think it just feels really good to help people make a decision that could change their life in a really positive way.
Yeah, so like my first manager once told me, he's like, Angie, you'll have success in this business if you find people that have problems to solve. A lot of times people don't know that they have this problem coming up. They have their kids going to college and it's super expensive. Like, so, or they know that part, but they don't know that real estate is a vehicle or a mechanism to help them deal with that problem.
Or even like solutions. You just give people solutions. Okay. This separates us from being an order taker, right? Because we really do care. It gives us a good reason to talk to people. Glenn Baker, I think it's an excellent video to put out, where, you could talk about, what that might look like. And hey, if you're interested, your team members can run through those numbers in no time. And anybody has trouble with it, reach out to your manager or me directly. I'll help you understand the numbers if you're committed to doing it. Because it feels good. Has anybody ever helped somebody where like their first family member got into buying a house and next thing you know, the brother does, and maybe 10 years later, most of the family owns a house now? Anybody can remember that experience? I see you're nodding your head, Jay, right?
Yeah, it's kind of cool. You know what I mean? When you're in good with your clients and they're raving fans, it's easy for them to refer you their family members who also want to get into the game. They copycat each other kind of thing. And it's pretty cool actually, because then you're helping an entire family. You know what I mean? And that means, hey, you get invites to weddings and you get invites to family functions and stuff like that, which is a really good place to be in your business where people appreciate you.
And there are some people, Jay, that just live in the mindset of renting, right? Because they don't really see it's possible. Maybe, right now with inflation, they struggle.
Well, right. And so it's a mindset, you know what I mean? They rationalize and justify that the rent that they're paying every month is worth it. Okay. And I try to point out to them repeatedly that it's not worth it. You're making someone else rich. Are you rich? They always go, no. And I said, well, why are you throwing all this money away? It's like 25 grand a year. It's 30 grand a year, 40 grand a year. Why not just buy something? What's the big deal? Well, it's a big commitment. Well, listen, gotten people to the other side of it. Okay. And the people, when I call them, okay, like I'm going to use this auto report to call all my clients and say, hey, here's what's going on, because that's what they want to know. And that's the way they see me. I'm their real estate guy. Right. And so part of the reason I do that auto report is because it gives me a window into the future and a way to talk to people, especially the consumer, who all think that they know it all. You know what I mean? They think they know our job. And here I go. Here's the data. Okay, take a look at it. And if you have any questions, give me a buzz. And they're all going to get it. All people in my sphere, because that gives them the ability to create and predict their own future and have some security and not listen to what's on the news. And they'll know what's going on here in real estate. The fact I'm going to call a bunch of the people who bought 4 or 5 years ago and say, hey, you want to hear the good news? You're up 42% over the past 5 years. How cool is that? Hey, listen, can I get half of that? Okay. And they all chuckle at that. Why, I helped you get the house. Shouldn't I get half? Anyway, you know what I mean?
So Jay, how about this for a topic? For a video or a short or a TikTok or an Instagram. That's not my specialty, but everybody pays a mortgage. Those who rent just pay somebody else's mortgage, right?
Well, right, exactly.
I mean, people think I don't want to pay a mortgage. Well, if you have shelter, you're paying somebody else's mortgage, right?
Well, right.
And
that's the light bulb goes off when I go, are you rich? And they say no. And I said, well, you're going to stay poor if you don't change this.
Right. And if you could tie this into that concept, right? If you're renting, you have a adjustable rate mortgage that can only go up. If you buy a house, you have a fixed rate mortgage that can only go down. Somebody can make that into a really good conversation. Does that make sense to you, Jay, or anybody?
Yeah, no, like you said, Rob, I ask the question, are you rich? And I wait for the answer. Okay. I shut my mouth and I wait for the answer. And that's when the light bulb goes off for them. I'm like, so what's your biggest bill every month? Well, my rent. Huh. And you're throwing that money away every month, huh? That's interesting. And then I walk away. And then the light bulb goes off. And yes, it's a easy conversation to have. I wouldn't say it's easy. There's uncomfortable parts of it, but the honesty of it, the people appreciate. You know what I mean?
Yep. But I mean, if you think about it intellectually, when you buy a house in this higher interest rate environment, the laws are such that if rates go down, we refinance, right? So your payment is kind of fixed here, and it can realistically only go down if rates go down. And if the rates stay the same, if you locked in a rate of 7.5 or 7 3/4 today, I'll ask this to you, Andy. If you locked in a rate of 7 3/4 today, right? And rates went to 11, how would you feel? Maybe Angie can't talk. Jay, so how would you feel if you locked in a rate at 7.5 today and rates went to 11?
Sweet. Thank God I did it then instead of waiting.
I would feel like Jesus himself came into my life and like made sure that, I wasn't paying that 11%.
Right. Now, if you locked in at that 7.5% and rates went back down to 4.5, how would you feel, Angie?
There's a lesson to be learned there, but I would still be happy it's not 11.
Right. No, but you would refinance, right?
No,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I would look to refinance. Yeah.
Right. So you still get the advantage of it. Okay. So maybe that conversation just has to be repeated. And if you could repeat it on social media or in, email video or on a TikTok or whatever, the way to get that message out there a little bit more broadly, I don't think everybody's thinking like that. Right. So, this is a bet where you flip a coin, heads, you win, interest rates go up, you win, right? Tails, interest rates go down, you win. Who would like to play a game where it's a double-sided coin, you win both ends? I don't think the consumers know that. I don't think our sphere of influence, I don't think our clients, I don't think our future clients are aware of this. And I think we need to have that conversation and educate them because, I remember somebody was really upset. They locked in at 5.5%. Like, I wish I would have done it a year ago. It would have been 3. And now they're like 5.5, man. I'm cool. It's like 7.5 now. Right. They feel better about that experience because they did it before it went up to their current levels. We need to have these conversations with the people that we have influence over, the people who count on us as being their real estate expert. All right. And if we're team leaders, we need to have our team members having these conversations. Okay. Because I don't want to see team members struggling when there's a process where you could help others and help yourself in return.
Hey Rob.
Yeah.
I've even, when I have people that are stuck on that position, I've dialed my clients who were thinking about renting and then they bought. And I'll say, hey, this is my friend Subin. Hey, Subin, were you going to rent? And he goes, yeah. And I said, and you bought a house. How'd that work out for you and your family? That worked out awesome. Because you got to get them over that fear, right? It's the fear of making the commitment that they got to get over. And if you bring someone who's over that fear and on the other side of the mountain, let's just say, and say, hey, how's the view from over there? It tends to get the people over the fear so much. They're not so afraid of it anymore. And then they say to themselves, yeah, I don't want to be poor the rest of my life. I want to do something about it. And so it's just a matter. And that's the whole thing with this auto report is the same kind of thing. These people who who, as you pointed out, have got kids. I've got a bunch of clients who have kids who've talked about investment properties for years, but they haven't committed to it. And, you know, you kind of gave me the little tip to say, hey, listen, you know, if you buy some investment properties now, it'll pay for their college when they're going to college, which is a really good conversation to have, because again, you're thinking about the long-term future of the family and not just about yourself. And
but it's about caring. And let me put this in your head so that it won't leave your head, okay? Back in the day, there were these loans called negative amortization, or where you only paid interest only, so you never built up equity in your house, and the rates could fluctuate. Now, is there anyone on this call, if they can make an extra $2,000, would put their client in a product where they never build equity and the interest rate can only go up? Would anybody do that for an extra $2,000? Jay, Angie, you wouldn't do that.
I wouldn't suggest it to my client. I mean, I would give him the opportunity to make his own decisions.
But Ron, if you knew they were getting hosed, you would tell them, like you're saying here. You say, you know, there's other products available.
Yeah.
Don't do that. So what I'm saying to you is, if we let somebody rent, okay, rent is only going to go what way, Ron?
Oh, it's going to go up, of course.
And how much equity are they building?
None.
So in essence, if we don't educate people, and you can't force them, but you need to educate them. Look, you know, this is basically, you have a no equity mortgage that you're paying. So you're paying somebody else's mortgage. You're not building up any equity, and the rate's always going to go up, right? I can't recall any time that a tenant got a letter from a landlord saying, you know what, the rental market's soft, I'm going to lower your rent by $50 a month. Does anybody on this call recall that in the past 10 years, any that ever happening?
No.
Okay, so in essence, if somebody's renting and they're not educated, we're basically putting them in that product, Ron, Angie. We're putting them in a product where they have no equity. They're paying somebody else's mortgage, and their payment can only go up. Sounds like a really pretty lousy thing to do, right? So I think it's probably selfish for us not to at least educate them on what's available to them. Okay, so I see a lot of rentals coming in now. Okay, a lot of agents are doing rentals to pay their bills. Maybe these renters are opportunity to educate and share with them, hey, you know what? You know, you may not know this, but you know, you're still paying a mortgage, just not your mortgage. So
Hey,
anyway.
Rob. Hey, Rob,
Yep.
It's Mike Luzzi. How are you? Real quick.
I'm doing great.
I had a very good friend of mine's mom move here from Austin, Texas a couple of years ago. She was hell bent on renting because she said she was older. She didn't want the responsibility. Well, long story short, I convinced her and showed her an opportunity to buy here in Boca, a little villa. She paid like $250 for it. Today it's worth about $400. So she loves me. So that's, you know, that's sometimes you have to step out of that comfort zone. You want to listen to your clients, but at the same time, when you know basically what's best for them, you have to present it to them. They have to make the final decision, but usually that's how it turns out.
So Mike, you're a true fiduciary there, right? You put their interest ahead. Like,
Absolutely.
You know, I know you got paid, but you didn't do it because you got paid a commission. You did it because you knew it was right.
Exactly. And it was a very good friend of mine, mom. And plus the fact I sold both that friend of mine, his daughter and son, a home that same year or a year after that. So it was a family thing, basically. So, you know, I mean, these people, they would never make a move without me from here on in, and they refer me a lot of people.
So to Jay's point, did they give you like a third of it? They say, hey, here's 50. No, I'm just teasing, but it feels good when you do that, right?
Absolutely. That's what it's about. I mean, that's what it's really about.
Because rent only goes up.
Yep.
Okay. If she's going to be here for 10 years, the rent's going to probably double in 10 years. And if she bought a place, she's going to get an abundant amount of equity. Even if the prices don't go up, you're paying the mortgage down.
And plus the fact, Rob, with her, she was an older woman. She was in her late 80s. You know, she's like 92 now. And I told her the fear would be if you rent a place, you're going to be paying like $2,000 a month to begin with. What happens in a year from now? Your landlord decides he wants to sell a place. You'll be moving again.
Yeah,
So
and
that really put her in perspective.
yeah,
Hey,
and
Rob,
it was doing good, Mike. Yeah, go ahead, Jay.
so one of the things I've learned to point out with renters is I'll ask them this question. I'll say, "Do you have a 401k?" And they all, of course, say, "Well, of course." And I'm like, there's no point in saving for retirement if you're paying rent. Take the money out of the 401k and buy a home for yourself because you need it. Okay. Which no financial guy is going to tell them. Okay. But the reality is, from a long-term investment strategy, financially to build wealth, right?
Yep.
Buying real estate for yourself is the best way to get there. Okay. And that's the truth of the matter. So I use, are you rich? Oh, you're renting and you have a 401k. Well, that's odd. Wonder why you do that. Because how much of the rent do you get back? Is that saving anything? Right. And that usually flips the switch. They don't usually do it because, oh, there'll be penalties. But I did. The one I just recently closed last week, Rob, they
Yeah.
pulled money out of their 401k to make it happen.
Well, and maybe Jay, you could even use the sheet and say, hey, if property goes up by 5% a year and you're controlling a $500,000 piece of property, you're getting 25,000 appreciation a year. How much benefit are you getting from your 401k? Beyond that, you're paying the property down, you're getting the tax deduction from home ownership. You know, the whole point of a 401k is to not pay taxes on that money, but you're getting all of that plus some if they, buy. And, if I get a sense, Jay, that you're doing this to make a sale, I'm going to push back. This is my body language going to be like this. But if I get a sense that you're saying, look, I really care about you, I just want to make sure you understand this, whatever decision you want to make, I would just feel horrible, Jay, if you made a decision to rent because you didn't have all the information. And then the person would be like, okay. And then you show them the information, say, you just tell me what you want to do now, because I'm disassociated from the outcome. I'm educating you. I think most people are going to do the thing that's right for them. And probably it's going to be buying a house.
Well, and again, it's how do I get the rationalization and justification that rent is somehow the right thing to do. Okay. So I'm trying to plant seeds around that belief, right? To change the belief so that we can change the behavior. Because without the change in the belief, the behavior is not going to change, and they're going to continue to be on their gerbil wheel to nowhere that is rent.
Yeah.
Financially speaking, right? You're on how's it feel to be on a gerbil wheel? I'll say to them. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, you're paying rent. So you're running and running and running every month, right? And what are you getting out of it?
So I hope everybody's inspired to reach out to their sphere of influence, their database, and have conversations that are value driven, and just say, hey, just want to see if I could help. And I'd be interested to see what happens, maybe come on next week if there's any positive results that'll uplift everybody. And I can't imagine I can't imagine somebody being negative. And if you're working with a renter, now you have another dialogue that you could have that educates them on whether that's the right decision for them. Okay. And if you need help, running through the numbers, I'm available. Your lenders can calculate those things and share it with them. And, we now have a much more abundant environment, and the more activity happens, the better it is for our whole real estate community. So I thank you all for
Rob, real quick, can I just jump in 1 second before we let everybody go? I just want to touch on a couple of things real quick, and I know everybody's got to go, but to touch on what John said about the 401k, you can withdraw the money and use that towards your down payment, and you can pay yourself back. We don't use that payment against you to qualify you to qualify you. So
you can borrow the money without
borrow the money from your 401k. Yeah, absolutely. And we don't count that debt when you pay it back. So you can pay yourself back, and we don't count the debt against you. That's one thing. The other thing, I guess what Danielle and you were talking about with the people buying homes for cash, we can do what's called delayed financing. So though you can make those calls to those people that have purchased a home within 6 months for cash, we could get them most of their cash back. So you don't have to wait the typical 6 months. When you purchase a home for cash, you could literally apply for a mortgage the next day and get your cash back. So that's called delayed financing.
So,
and then, go ahead.
You finish up your thought, and then I want to add just one thing.
No, and then the other thing was the 3.5% down for the investment for the folks that are the kids looking to for the parents that are looking to buy investment properties for their kids in college. you could put as little as 3 or 3.5% down and use that, you know, like you said, get some roommates. Now you have an investment property for when you graduate. So those are the couple things I just wanted to touch base on.
And I'm just going to conclude this with, do you know why interest on a home is tax deductible? Because the government believes it's good for people to own homes. That's basically an incentive to change your behavior to buy a house, right? Because home ownership is a positive for the economy. It's a positive for individuals. That's why it's there. It's like when they give you an incentive to buy an EV car, they give you $4,000 back because they believe it's in the common good. But this has been around, you know, probably since the beginning of taxation. They've been giving you a write-off for interest on your home. So take the message, have some conversations, you know that when you're reaching out to people that it's a positive. Don't feel awkward about it because you're just trying to educate and help people. I thank you for coming.
Oh, wait, one more quick question. So sorry, but he just said something that I need to clarify. So he mentioned that on a, I guess for a college student to make an investment to buy, or for a homeowner, rather for a parent to buy for their kid, they can get 3.5% down. I thought it was if it was an investment, because that is considered an investment, it has to be minimum 25%.
One second before we answer that. So Monday is peer-to-peer with door knocking experiences. So I encourage you all to come to that. And secondly, Frank, address that question about investment.
Mickey, just real quick, if the parent wants to buy the college student a home, the college student is going to live there and rent some room outs if it's a multifamily. That's considered a primary. The parents are just co-signing for their son. So it's considered a primary.
So let me just clarify that. So it's only in a scenario when it's a parent buying for their student. It's not any other time.
Right, exactly. If the parents are buying for the student, yep, exactly. They could put as little as 3 or 3.5% down. But you're right, on a typical investment property, you have to put 20 or 25% down.
Okay, got it.
Yep,
okay,
absolutely.
thank you.
You got it.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a great day.
Bye.